London in the 1300s was a city of contrasts, thriving commerce, towering churches, narrow winding streets, and yet constant threat of fire, disease, and political unrest. By the end of the century, the city's population is estimated at around 80,000, packed within walls built for far fewer. Today, we use modern AI tools to breathe life into this medieval city, reconstructing paintings, manuscripts, and archaeological records to move through streets and markets in ways the original residents never could. First, I want to talk about this view shows London Bridge, circa 1300. By the early 14th century, London Bridge was the lifeline connecting the city to Southwark. Its stone arches rose above the Thames, punctuated by the rows of houses and shops lining both sides. Foreground shows merchants unloading barrels, while in the midground, horse-drawn carts jostle for space. The background is dominated by the skyline of St. Paul's old cathedral, its spire reaching toward the sky. The bridge was crowded and perilous. Records describe frequent collapses of temporary scaffolds, fires in timber houses, and thieves lurking in alleyways beneath the arches. Its importance was immense, enabling trade, taxation, and communication with southern England. Over time, houses on the bridge were rebuilt or removed. Today, its location is commemorated by modern markers along the Thames. This view shows Cheapside, London's bustling market street. By the 1300s, Cheapside was the commercial heart of the city. Stone-paved streets are crowded with stalls selling cloth, spices, and livestock. In the foreground, bakers knead dough, blacksmiths hammer iron, and street hawkers call out to passers-by. The air is thick with smoke, scents of bread and dung mingling with the river's odor. Tensions were constant. Crowds clashed, pickpockets moved among the market-goers, and occasional riots over food prices flared. Cheapside mattered because it was London's economic engine, linking merchants, craftsmen, and nobles alike. By the late 14th century, some markets were reorganized under guild regulations. Today, Cheapside survives as a major thoroughfare, a faint echo of its medieval vibrancy. This view shows the Tower of London and the White Tower. By the 1300s, the Tower of London dominated the eastern skyline, a symbol of royal authority and defense. Foreground shows sentries pacing the walls, the moat glistening under the winter sun. In the midground, supplies are ferried into the gates, while the background reveals the city stretching westward. Life here was disciplined and tense. Prisoners, guards, and craftsmen coexisted under strict rules. Its importance lay in power and prestige. Kings and queens used it to store treasure, arms, and sometimes human lives. Over centuries, expansions added the Bloody Tower and other fortifications. Today, the tower remains one of London's most iconic landmarks. This view shows St. Mary Le Bow Church. By the mid-14th century, St. Mary Le Bow was a central landmark in Cheapside. The soaring stone spire pierced the skyline, bells ringing across the city. In the foreground, parishioners enter for morning prayers, children play nearby, and merchants continue their business. Medieval Londoners lived with constant risk. Fire could spread rapidly from timber houses, and disease outbreaks loomed. Churches like St. Mary Le Bow provided spiritual refuge and social cohesion, hosting markets and festivals. After the Great Fire centuries later, much was rebuilt, but the church's location continues to define the heart of London today. This view shows Fleet Street and the River Fleet. By the late 1300s, Fleet Street followed the course of the River Fleet, now partially culverted. Narrow alleys and timber-framed houses lean precariously over the street. In the foreground, tanners and millers work by the riverbank. Midground shows carts and pedestrians navigating muddy, uneven streets. The area was a centre of trade but also danger. Flooding, filth, and occasional crime were constant. Fleet Street mattered as a conduit for goods and people moving from the northwestern suburbs into the city. Over time, it evolved into a hub of printing and publishing. Today, Fleet Street survives as a major artery, its medieval origins still traceable in building alignments. This view shows Smithfield Market. By the 1300s, Smithfield was London's livestock market. In the foreground, cattle and sheep are herded, and butchers sharpen knives in preparation. Midground is filled with merchants haggling over prices, while the background shows St. Bartholomew's Priory looming above. Life was lively but unsanitary. Blood, dung, and the smell of animals filled the air. Riots occasionally erupted, particularly during market disputes or festival chaos. Smithfield mattered for feeding the city and supporting the economy. Over centuries, the market shifted and was rebuilt, yet its legacy as a trading hub remains. This view shows the city gates, Aldgate and Ludgate. By the early 14th century, London's gates controlled access in and out of the walls. Foreground shows guards inspecting carts, while midground travellers carry goods and pay tolls. Background depicts the sprawl of streets leading into the city proper. Gates were both protection and bottleneck, sites of occasional conflict or smuggling. They mattered for defence, taxation, and city regulation. Some gates were later demolished or replaced with arches. Today, only fragments remain, preserved in museum displays or street names.
This view shows the Thames quayside near Queenhithe. By the mid-1300s, the Thames quays were alive with river traffic. Foreground shows barges unloading grain and wine, dockworkers shouting over the splash of oars. Midground reveals warehouses and ropemakers' yards, while the skyline includes distant spires and the tower. Life here was physically demanding and hazardous: slippery docks, crowded boats, and risk of drowning or disease. The quays mattered for commerce, linking London to England and continental Europe. Over time, docks expanded and modernized. Queenhithe's location remains a historic dock area today. This view shows the Blackfriars Monastery. By the late 1300s, the Blackfriars Monastery occupied a prominent site near the Thames. In the foreground, friars walk the cloisters, students study manuscripts, and townspeople seek counsel. Midground gardens and orchard plots provide food and greenery. Life was contemplative but tightly controlled, with the shadow of plague and civic unrest always present. Monasteries like Blackfriars mattered for education, religion, and diplomacy. Later, parts of the monastery were repurposed after the dissolution of the monasteries. Today, only foundations and street names hint at its presence. By the mid-14th century, the Black Death swept through London. Foreground shows abandoned carts and shuttered shops. Midground depicts monks and physicians attending the sick, while the background features smoke rising from burial pits. Daily life was a struggle. Fear, isolation, and grief pervaded every street. This moment mattered for demographic, economic, and social transformation, reshaping labor, trade, and urban planning. Over decades, the city slowly recovered, rebuilding streets, markets, and communities. Today, plaques and archaeology remind us of these devastating years. This view shows the Guildhall, centre of civic power. By the late 1300s, the Guildhall was the heart of London's civic administration. Foreground shows town criers, guild members, and clerks moving through the stone courtyard. Midground reveals council chambers, where debates over taxes and laws take place. Life here was formal but tense. Political rivalries, fiscal pressure, and occasional riots marked the city's governance. The Guildhall mattered for law, trade regulation, and representation. Over centuries, it has been rebuilt and preserved, still serving as a civic centre and ceremonial space today. London, in the 1300s, feels remarkably close when we reconstruct it this way. We can almost hear the bells, smell the markets, and navigate its crowded streets. AI allows us to step inside history, not just read about it, and to witness lives both extraordinary and ordinary. If there's another city, moment, or scene you'd like to see brought to life in this way, let me know in the comments. Again, thank you so much.